So quite frequent in a script or in a production, you will see a crying scene. Now, they can range in variation from one solo tear for comedy purpose or slight drama to all the way up to a full-blown meltdown. Determining what level of crying the actor or actress is having in the scene will be helpful in determining how you can go about it in a makeup way. We're going to start on the lowest end. The lowest end of producing a single tear can be done simply with eye drops. For example, I'm going to take some Visine here. Now we of course have already sanitized our hands and we've already checked with Rosie regarding any allergies that she may have to anything that's on the table. She's safe from everything, so what we're going to do with Visine is I'm going to have you tilt your head back slightly and give one tiny little dot and tilt your head forward. Very simple to do a very quick tear. This is something that can be done right on set, right before the shot is about to happen, if they're just supposed to have one running tear coming down. Now do pay attention, of course, if they do have beauty makeup on for this scene, which in most cases, if they're going to have one solo tear, they probably have a full face of beauty makeup on. If that's the case, if you're the one doing it, make sure that what you're using on the eyes is waterproof, unless they are meant to have runny mascara. If the runny mascara is part of the script, then of course don't use waterproof. That way the water is able to break it down for you. Now if they do have runny mascara and they do have beauty makeup on, this can potentially break down the remainder of the makeup as well. So you do want to be on set very close by for very quick dab off of this liquid in between the takes. So that way you can retouch the makeup and go back in for another take very quickly. Now this is a very quick way to add one solo tear and the easiest method that you can do. The next level of tears that you can do would be if someone has already been crying for a while and you need to see a consistent amount of tears. Now, as a human being, I'm sure you've cried in your life, you know that when you cry, your eyes get very red, they're fairly irritated, and they tend to swell up a bit. You do want to give some painting around the eye area to give the illusion of that before you add in anything extra. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to intensify the darkness under the eyes and really almost intensify the dark circles and add some redness to the inside, on the corners, and a little bit in the top of the lid area to give the illusion that the eyes are irritated from crying. Then I'm going to show you how to use a glycerin-based product to add a more aggressive level of tears. So using our alcohol-activated palette, I've mixed a little bit of a slight bruised tone, which is a bit of a purple maroon undertone with a little bit of some red to kind of tone it down a little bit and make it look more irritated versus bruised. Now again, this is an alcohol activated makeup, so be gentle around the eye area where you're placing it and don't put too much of that alcohol, otherwise you don't want to get it into the actor's eyes and irritate them. Now look straight up for me and tilt your head down a little bit, and then perfect. So the areas you will want to highlight very lightly are going to be right in the dark area. You don't want to make the entire area underneath the eye dark because not that whole area gets red when you cry. But you just want to intensify where you would naturally see some darkness, which is right about there, a little inside here. You can go a little bit along the outer lash line underneath too. A bit on the outside edge of the eye. Think of when you're crying, you tend to wipe the tears away a lot, so there's a lot of irritation in these specific areas of the face. Close your eyes for me. And then we're going to go a bit on the inner corners and slightly along the lash line as well. And remember from the first module that we filmed with the injuries, so where you're placing the colors should be fairly sporadic and a bit uneven. If it looks too even and blended, then it looks very noticeably fake as opposed to just being lightly placed on. Aside from using a detail brush like this, you could use your little sponge that you've already pre-cut and you could take it and do a tiny little tap around there, similar to the bruising effect. This effect with the crying is very closely related to the bruising, where you want to go very lightly, very opaque, or you want to go very translucent with the color that you're applying on and softly layer if you need more. It should really look like it's just an extra layer on top of the skin versus a very apparent color. So I'm going in with a second layer here just to give a more obvious look to this. Now this will also make her look tired, which of course if you're crying, you are going to be a bit tired because you're emotionally exhausted. Close your eyes for me. Adding redness around the eyes as well always helps to make you look sick. So even if someone isn't crying in a scene, but they're meant to look a bit under the weather, this is an easy way to give that effect without going full-blown in with anything else. It just really makes the person look a bit under the weather. Open your eyes for me and turn straight forward. Now you can see the difference between the two eyes. This one looks more visibly irritated than this one does. To add another layer, what you can add is a little bit of yellow. Remember before in the bruising, a little bit of yellow gives a bit of a swollen effect to the skin. And you would not want to do a lot here, but just a tiny little. Look up. Right under the under eye. Close your eyes for me. And right here along the lash line. These are the areas when someone cries that tend to kind of puff up a bit when they've been crying for a while, and will bring another level of realism to the look. Again, just very translucent with your layering here. The goal is not to go full blown with opaque color, more of a wash. Now that we have the correct coloring down for the tears, what we're going to use is a glycerin-based product to give the illusion of more. Now I'm putting some of this in a cup. You can certainly just drip this directly on the face, but I like to be more precise with where the placement goes. And what I like to do also is take some on the brush, look straight up for me, and tap a bit underneath. Having this glycerin underneath is actually going to stay put. This will not break down the alcohol activated makeup as well. If you were to have done a cream-based makeup underneath the eyes here, this glycerin, you run the chance of this actually breaking down that cream makeup that you used. So something like this is going to be better to use with a alcohol activated makeup that you know is going to give you a bit more longevity out of the look. Adding a little bit underneath the eyes there gives the effect of it happening for quite a while. And then, similar to how we were dripping blood, you can add a little drop. Do not get this in their eyes. I'm going outside the eyes, mind you. So you can add a tiny little bit at the top here, keep adding more to it until it naturally falls on its own. And this will give you a fairly long-lasting illusion of tear. Now, you can see the tear is naturally flowing down the face the way it would normally if you were to be crying. This is a better method to use if you need something more long-standing than one quick shot of a tear, as opposed to the eye drops that we use. Those dry fairly quickly. This will take quite a while to dry down, so you have the illusion of this tear softly running down the face that brings another level of realism into the look. Now that we have one method on this eye, I'm going to show you on our other eye here a way to make a much more dramatic and really produce a real tear for the actor. Sometimes actors can produce tears very quickly on their own and in a snap, and it's remarkable. Sometimes they need a little bit of help to produce those tears, and that's where you come into play. So aside from doing a cosmetic version of it, we use what's called a tear blower stick, which is actually just menthol crystals in a safe form with a filter on the end that you physically blow into and around the actor's eyes, which will cause a natural irritation and allow them to quickly produce natural tears without having to muster up the emotional ability to do so. So first, if you're going to do this, what you will want to do first is paint a little bit. Of course, you still want to add a little bit extra of the redness to the area. Go for me. So I'm adding a similar mauve tone as before to really intensify the tears under the eyes here. Close your eyes. And we're working again in our alcohol activated makeup. Now this is important again because you're going to be helping your actor produce real tears for this one. This is not cosmetic tear that we're going to be producing. So you want something that's going to withstand water dripping down onto the face. Now before we add the tears, it's important to note that the crying doesn't always have to be just on the eye area. If they've been crying for a long time and it's a very long, very emotional scene, adding some redness around the nose will also bring a level of realism in. Think of when you're crying very hard for a while, your nose runs, everything kind of starts dripping down. So adding the nose into it for something that's very full and very long of a scene is going to give you that other layer of realism to make it look much more like they've been having a really hard time. Now that we have some painting down there, I'm going to show you how to use the tear blower stick. So it comes protected like this, and you just pull both of these sides out. These you'll put off to the side. Now, it's how you can't see on the camera, but inside, if you were to look inside this little hole, there is a little cotton filter inside of here. This is where you blow onto the actor, and this is where you put your mouth. So before you blow this into the actor's eye, you want to do a test run to make sure that the crystals aren't going to just blow completely out. You want to make sure that that filter is there so that it's safe for them. You don't want the crystals to actually touch their eyes. Think of this, the filter almost acts as like a cigarette where it's filtering out all of the particles, so it's just air with the menthol to it. So do a little test blow off to the side to make sure that the filter doesn't pop out, that you're not getting any crystals. I like to blow it on my hand to make sure that, you know, if you see crystals on your hand, you know that it's not working properly. Okay, it's working properly, so then we can go ahead and lightly blow this to the actor's eyes. Okay, open your eyes pretty wide for me. So I'm gonna hold her eye open a bit just because this is going to naturally irritate the eye. I'm sorry. It will irritate the eye naturally, and you do need to get a little bit in there to make sure it does its job, and the eye naturally wants to close, so holding it open a bit will be helpful. You can blow a little bit in there, give it a second, let it activate. You don't need to keep going for a long time. It tends to work pretty quickly. How are you feeling? It's happening, right? It tends to happen pretty quickly, and then the body's natural response, because it is a menthol irritant, is to actually go ahead and cry. Now you see we're getting naturally produced tears with the paint level in there, and they're able to pull a lot more emotion for the scene. Of course, when you're done with your tear blower stick, before you put it away, make sure you sanitize that mouthpiece. That way, if you're needing to be sharing this with any other artist, it's clean and sanitary, and also keeping your kit clean and sanitary, #1 as well.